The jungle was alive with sound, buzzing insects, whispering leaves, and strange animal cries that didn't belong to Earth. Thick fog wrapped the trees like ghostly hands, and the air smelled of metal and rot. Somewhere deep inside that green maze, a human walked alone. His name was Captain Raylan Cross, last survivor of the crashed ship Vanguard 7. Raylan had been stranded on this alien world for 23 days. His supplies were almost gone, and every step through the wild brought new dangers. The ground was soft, wet, and sometimes moved beneath his boots. The trees were huge, their roots like snakes. He had seen things that watched him from the dark, eyes that glowed but never blinked. That evening, the sky turned blood orange. Raylan set up a small fire, roasting the last piece of alien fruit he had found. He whispered to himself, trying not to lose hope. "Tomorrow I'll find the signal tower," he said. "Maybe someone will hear me." Then it happened. A scream ripped through the jungle. It wasn't the cry of any animal he knew. It was sharp, high, and full of pain and something else. It sounded almost human. Raylan froze. The scream came again, echoing between the trees. Someone or something was in trouble. He grabbed his rifle and flashlight, heart pounding fast. He had learned not to trust sounds in this place. Sometimes the jungle made voices to trick him, but this scream felt real, desperate, alive. He moved carefully, stepping over roots, ducking under vines. Each sound made him turn his head, finger ready on the trigger. After a few minutes, he saw it, a flash of silver light between the trees. He crept closer, hiding behind a large root. There, in a small clearing, stood a metal trap. Its jaws were open, glowing red. Inside it lay a figure, a woman but not a human one. Her skin shone faintly blue, as if tiny stars lived under it. Her hair floated around her face like smoke, and her eyes, wide and bright, watched him with both fear and hope. Raylan couldn't believe what he was seeing. An alien, a real one. The trap's teeth had cut deep into her leg. Strange blue liquid leaked out, glowing like liquid light. She tried to speak, but her voice came out as soft electric sounds. "Easy," Raylan whispered, lowering his weapon. "I'm not your enemy." She looked at him, trembling, whispering a single word in broken English. "Help." Raylan's instincts took over. He knelt beside the trap, studying it. It wasn't human technology. The metal pulsed like it was alive. He touched it carefully, and it responded with a hiss, trying to close tighter. "Hold on," he said. He pulled out a multi-tool and began cutting at the glowing cables. Sparks flew, burning his fingers, but he didn't stop. The alien woman groaned in pain. Finally, with a loud snap, the trap released her leg. She gasped, curling up, and the red light of the trap faded into darkness. "Can you walk?" Raylan asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Raylan lifted her gently. She was lighter than he expected, her body giving off a faint warmth like a small campfire. He started moving toward his old shelter, a small cave hidden behind thick vines. But as he turned, a deep thud shook the ground. Then another, and another, footsteps, heavy ones. Raylan stopped. The jungle went silent, as if holding its breath. Through the fog, he saw shapes moving, tall, metallic, glowing faintly blue like the trap. Hunters. His stomach turned cold. Whoever had set the trap was coming back. Raylan hurried through the trees, trying to stay quiet. The woman in his arms stirred, whispering something in her alien tongue. The word repeated, weak but urgent. "Hunters, hunters." Branches cracked behind him. A mechanical growl echoed. He reached the cave just as a red laser beam sliced through the mist where he had stood seconds before. It burned a line across a tree trunk, setting it on fire. Raylan ducked inside, placing the alien gently on the cave floor. He turned off his light and pressed his back against the stone wall, breathing hard. Outside, the jungle lit up with moving red beams. Shadows moved like ghosts among the trees. The hunters were scanning, searching. Raylan checked his rifle, half charged. Not enough to fight many. He had to wait. He had to think. The alien woman's eyes opened slightly. She looked at him, whispering again. "They come. For me. Who are they?" Raylan asked. She touched the crystal pendant glowing faintly on her chest. "Hunters, killers? Need my light?" Her voice faded as she lost consciousness again. Raylan stared out of the cave. Red light flashed closer. The hunters were near. He could hear the metal claws scratching against the rocks. He whispered to himself, "Not tonight. You're not taking her." He raised his rifle, aiming toward the light. The footsteps grew louder. Then the jungle shook again, thud, thud. Thud, something massive moved between the trees, and in that moment, Raylan realized the hunters were not the only danger out there. The jungle was quiet again, but it was the kind of silence that warned of danger. Captain Raylan sat near the mouth of the cave, his rifle aimed at the dark trees outside. The air was thick with smoke from the burning trees the laser had cut. Somewhere in that fog, he knew, something was watching. Behind him, the alien woman lay still on a bed of dry leaves. Her glowing skin pulsed softly like the beat of a heart. Each pulse seemed slower than before. Raylan looked at her leg. The wound from the metal trap was closing, but in a strange way, the blue light under her skin was knitting itself together. Raylan didn't understand how, but she was healing herself. He wiped sweat from his forehead and whispered, "Who are you?" The woman's eyes opened a little. She looked at him, her voice weak but steady. "Lyra, Lyra," he repeated softly. "You're safe for now. But those things out there, they're still looking." She nodded slowly, pain in her face. "Hunters, machines." From the sky, Raylan frowned. "Machines? You mean robots?" Lyra shook her head. "Not all metal. Half beast, half machine. They smell blood. They follow sound." As if her words had summoned them, a distant metallic roar rolled through the forest. The ground shook lightly. Raylan peered out of the cave and saw red lights moving in the fog. There were at least 3, tall shapes with long arms and faces made of glass and steel. Raylan cursed under his breath. He couldn't fight them all. He turned back to Lyra. "We have to move. If they find this cave, we're finished." She tried to stand, but her leg trembled. "I can walk." "Little." Raylan put her arm around his shoulders and helped her up. Together they slipped out the back of the cave through a narrow gap between rocks. The path led into the deeper part of the jungle, where giant trees blocked most of the light. As they walked, Raylan heard the hunters getting closer, mechanical breathing, heavy metal steps, and the clicking sound of scanners sweeping the ground. Suddenly, one of the hunters let out a sharp cry, an electronic scream, and fired a beam into the forest. Trees exploded in flame. "Run!" Raylan shouted. They stumbled through the thick vines and mud, the air filled with smoke and red flashes. Lyra's breath came fast. She clutched the glowing crystal on her chest. It flickered wildly. Raylan led her toward a swampy area covered in white mist. The water smelled foul, but the fog would hide them. They crouched behind a fallen log as one of the hunters stomped nearby, its head turning left and right like a scanner. Through the mist, Raylan could see its strange shape, metal legs, but its upper body looked almost like an animal. Its mouth opened, and from it came a low growl that sounded alive. Lyra whispered, "They feed on life, not just kill." Raylan gritted his teeth. "Not today." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a flare grenade. He threw it to the right, far away into the trees. The grenade exploded in a burst of red light and sound. The hunter roared and turned toward it, running after the noise. "Move," Raylan whispered. They crept in the opposite direction, deeper into the swamp. Minutes passed before they stopped again. Both were shaking, breathing hard. Raylan wiped mud from his face. "We can't keep running like this." Lyra looked up at the glowing canopy above. "There is a temple, north. Old place, safe, maybe," Raylan nodded. "Then that's where we're going." They began walking again, following the faint blue moss that lit the ground like a path. The jungle seemed to whisper around them, soft voices in a language Raylan didn't understand. As they walked, Lyra told him pieces of her story. "My people once lived with light. Long ago we saved humans from the dark. But then humans came again. They took, not gave. War came." Raylan felt his chest tighten. "Humans fought your people?" Lyra's eyes filled with sadness. "Long time ago. But the hunters, they are not human. They belong to those who broke the peace." Before Raylan could answer, the ground trembled again. From the fog behind them, the sound of heavy steps returned, closer, faster. "They're tracking us," Raylan shouted. He spotted a giant tree with roots forming a hollow space underneath. "In here!" They crawled inside, hiding between the roots. The hunters' lights scanned the swamp outside. One beam stopped just a few feet away. Raylan held his breath. He could feel Lyra's heartbeat against his arm, slow but strong. The beam moved away. The hunters walked on, their steps fading. Raylan let out a long sigh. That was too close. Lyra smiled weakly. You saved me, he shook his head. No, I just did what anyone would do. She looked at him deeply. No, humans don't save my kind anymore. Her words stayed with him. For the first time in weeks, Raylan felt something other than fear, something like purpose. But that moment didn't last. From above the trees came a new sound, a low hum, growing louder every second. The fog glowed red. Raylan looked up through the branches. What now? Lyra's face turned pale. Not hunters. Ship. Through the mist, a dark shape descended. Massive, silent, covered in lights. The hunters were only the beginning. The alien ship hovered above the jungle like a silent predator. Its dark hull reflected the red glow of its own lights. Long metal arms extended down, scanning the ground with beams of blue energy. Every tree it touched sparked and burned, and every living thing nearby fell still. Captain Raylan and Lyra crouched under the giant roots of an old tree, their bodies covered in mud to hide their heat signatures. The air was heavy with smoke and the smell of burning leaves. Raylan whispered, "They're sweeping the whole area." Lyra nodded weakly, her glowing skin now dim and flickering. "They know I'm alive, my energy." It calls to them. The sound of the ship deepened, a slow, thunder-like hum that shook the jungle. Pieces of ash rained down from the trees like black snow. Raylan's instinct screamed at him to move. "We can't stay here. We have to go now." He helped Lyra stand. She leaned on him as they moved through the fog, staying low and silent. The mist grew thicker with every step, hiding the glowing lights above. It was cold now, the kind of cold that didn't belong in a jungle. Lyra's voice was soft. "This place is wrong. The mist. It hides things." Raylan scanned the area. The jungle had changed. Trees bent in strange shapes and the ground looked soft, almost liquid. He took a cautious step and the mud rippled like water. "What is this?" he muttered. Lyra placed her hand on the ground. The mud glowed faintly blue. Ancient tech. The jungle remembers. It protects itself. Before Raylan could answer, a sudden metallic roar echoed through the fog. He turned and saw 3 hunters breaking through the mist, their red eyes glowing like demons. "Run!" he shouted. They ran as fast as they could, splashing through the glowing mud. The hunters followed, their heavy legs sinking deep but never stopping. Beams of red light shot past Raylan's head, burning holes through the fog. He pulled Lyra behind a fallen tree and fired his rifle. The energy bolt hit one hunter square in the chest. It stumbled but didn't fall. Instead, it screeched, a terrible metallic sound that made Raylan's ears ring. Lyra raised her hand. The crystal on her chest shone brightly for the first time in hours. A burst of blue light shot from her palm, hitting the hunter's face. The machine convulsed, sparks flying, then collapsed into the mud. Raylan looked at her in shock. "You can fight?" Lyra gasped for breath. "Not for long. It takes too much energy." The other 2 hunters were closing in fast. Raylan grabbed her hand. "Then let's make it count." They ran again, deeper into the mist. The fog seemed alive now, swirling around them like a living curtain. Raylan could barely see a few feet ahead. The jungle sounds were gone. Only the thumping of his heart and the mechanical growls behind them remained. Suddenly, they reached a cliff. Below them, a vast swamp spread out. Dark water, glowing plants, and broken alien ruins half buried in the mud. Raylan looked down, then back at the approaching hunters. "We jump," Lyra shook her head. "It's dangerous. The swamp eats metal and flesh." Raylan smiled grimly. "Then let's hope it's hungry for them, not us." Before she could answer, he grabbed her and leaped. They hit the water hard, sinking into cold darkness. For a moment, everything was silent except the sound of bubbles and their own breath. Then Raylan felt something wrap around his leg, a vine, thick and alive. He pulled his knife and slashed it free, swimming upward. They broke through the surface, gasping. Behind them, the hunters reached the cliff. One jumped down after them, landing with a splash that sent waves crashing. The others stayed above, scanning. Raylan swam toward a cluster of broken stone pillars. "There, shelter!" They climbed onto the ruins, coughing and shaking. The hunter in the water moved closer, its red eyes glowing through the mist. It raised its weapon, ready to fire. Lyra closed her eyes. The crystal on her chest pulsed faster, brighter. Blue light flowed from her hands into the swamp. The water began to boil and shimmer. Raylan stared in disbelief as the vines in the swamp suddenly came alive. They wrapped around the hunter's legs, pulling it down. The machine roared and struggled, but the vines only tightened, dragging it under until it disappeared completely. Lyra's light faded, and she fell to her knees. The jungle helped. Raylan knelt beside her. You did that? She shook her head. No, the jungle did. It remembers who hurts it. The air grew still again. The fog started to thin, revealing more of the ancient ruins. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the stones. Raylan touched one of them. What is this place? Lyra looked around, eyes wide. A temple. My people built it long ago, before the war. Before the hunters. Raylan's hand rested on his rifle. Then maybe it can protect us, she smiled weakly. Or destroy us. The jungle chooses. Far above, the alien ship still searched, its red light sweeping the mist. But for now, Raylan and Lyra were hidden. The jungle had given them one more chance. Raylan looked at her, exhausted but determined. We'll make it through this. I promise. Lyra met his eyes. You promise too much, human. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but I keep my promises. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The jungle groaned like a living creature, and from somewhere deep inside the ruins, something old and powerful began to wake. The storm came without warning. Lightning flashed across the sky, painting the jungle in blue fire. Thunder rolled like the growl of a beast. Rain poured down, washing away blood, mud, and footprints. Inside the ancient ruins, Captain Raylan built a small fire under a cracked stone arch. The orange light flickered against alien carvings, faces, symbols, and strange winged creatures. The air was cold and heavy with the smell of wet stone. Lyra sat close to the wall, her skin glowing faintly. Her wound had closed completely, but her eyes looked distant, like she was listening to voices only she could hear. Raylan cleaned his rifle, watching her carefully. You said your people built this place. Why does it feel alive? Lyra looked up, her voice soft. Because it is. These ruins are not just stone. They are memory. My people used living metal. It remembers everything it touches. Raylan frowned. Remembers? You mean like data? She shook her head slowly. Not data. Feeling, pain, death. This temple remembers the war. Raylan felt a chill crawl up his spine. The war between your kind and humans? Lyra nodded, her voice heavy with sorrow. Long ago, humans came here. They wanted power, the energy crystal inside us. They called it living light. They took many of us. We fought back. Both sides burned. Raylan stayed quiet for a long time, staring into the fire. He finally said, I wasn't even born then, my people. They don't tell that part of history. Lyra smiled sadly. Because humans forget what they break. The fire crackled. Outside, thunder roared again. Raylan stood and looked around the temple. Strange blue lights pulsed faintly in the walls. We should rest. The hunters are gone for now. Lyra shook her head. No, they will come again. The ship above, my signal calls them. Even if I hide, they can feel me. Raylan clenched his fists. Then we cut the signal. Show me how. Lyra hesitated. If I stop the signal, I stop myself. My energy core, this crystal, it keeps me alive. He stared at her, realizing what she meant. You'd die? She nodded. Maybe. Or maybe I sleep forever. Before Raylan could respond, the floor beneath them vibrated. A low hum filled the air, deep and angry. The blue light in the walls brightened. Lyra's eyes widened. No, it's waking. What's waking? Raylan shouted over the growing sound. The Guardian, she cried. The floor cracked open. From the darkness below, something climbed up. A massive figure of stone and metal covered in vines and glowing symbols. Its face was like a mask, blank except for two burning eyes. Raylan aimed his rifle. You've got to be kidding me. The creature moved slowly but with power that shook the ground. It looked at Lyra, then at Raylan. Its voice was like thunder and stone grinding together. Intruders. Lyra stepped forward weakly. Guardian, please. We mean no harm. I am of your makers. The creature tilted its head. You bring a human. The destroyers. The thieves. Raylan raised his weapon. Hey, easy, big guy. I didn't steal anything. The Guardian's chest opened, revealing a pulsing blue heart made of light. This jungle remembers. The walls around them glowed brighter, showing images. Battles, explosions, screaming humans, and aliens burning in light. Raylan watched in horror as history replayed before his eyes. Lyra whispered, It's showing the war. The truth. The Guardian lifted one massive hand. Energy gathered in its palm. Raylan fired, but the bullet turned to dust in midair. The energy beam shot forward, blasting the floor beside him. Raylan flew back, hitting the wall hard. His ears rang. Lyra ran to him.
"Raylan!"
He groaned, trying to stand. "I'm fine." Just a little. He stopped. His arm glowed faintly blue where the beam had grazed him. Lyra's face turned pale. "No, it marked you. The temple thinks you are part of the old war. Then fix it," Raylan shouted. Lyra placed her glowing hand on his arm. The light from her crystal spread, wrapping around his wound. Pain shot through him, but slowly the blue mark faded. The Guardian stopped, watching her. Its voice softened slightly. "You protect the human?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, he saved me. He fights the hunters. He is not like the others." The Guardian went silent. For a long moment, only the rain and thunder filled the temple. Then it stepped back, the blue light in its chest dimming. "Then you both must go," it said. "The hunters come with fire. The jungle will bleed again." Raylan pulled Lyra to her feet. "Where do we go?" The Guardian pointed toward a tunnel leading deeper underground. "Follow the light. There you will find truth or death." The ground rumbled again. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra looked at Raylan. "The jungle tests us. If we live, it will choose a side." Raylan smirked, picking up his rifle. "Then let's give it a reason to choose ours." Together they ran into the tunnel, the blue light guiding their path as thunder shook the world above. Behind them, the Guardian returned to stone, its eyes fading to darkness. But its final words echoed through the temple like a warning. "The enemy is not only outside. Sometimes it walks beside you." Raylan glanced at Lyra as they disappeared into the tunnel's shadows. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. The tunnel twisted deep under the ground. Blue lights pulsed along the walls like veins carrying energy through a living body. Every step echoed softly, mixing with the sound of dripping water. Captain Raylan led the way, his rifle ready, his nerves sharp. Behind him, Lyra walked slowly, her glowing skin lighting the path. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were calm. "The jungle listens," she whispered. Raylan glanced back. "Listens to what?" "To us," she said. "To every word, every choice." He didn't understand what she meant, but he could feel it too. Something alive was down there, watching them. After an hour, the tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. The ceiling was lost in darkness. Giant roots hung from above, pulsing with faint green light. In the middle of the chamber stood a large crystal tree, glowing softly with blue fire. Raylan stared in awe. "What is this?" Lyra stepped closer. "The heart of the jungle," she said quietly. "This is where the forest breathes. My people built it to protect life, but after the war it began to protect itself." Raylan approached the crystal tree and placed his hand on its surface. The glow brightened instantly, spreading up the branches. The air filled with whispers. Thousands of voices speaking in a language he didn't know. Lyra's eyes widened. "It knows you." "Knows me?" Raylan said. "How?" "Your blood touched its memory. You carry something from the old war." Raylan's pulse quickened. "That Guardian's blast, maybe it changed me." Before Lyra could answer, a tremor shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. The blue light flickered. Lyra's face turned pale. "They found us." From the tunnel they came, the hunters crashing through rock and roots, their red eyes burning. Behind them, the skyship's shadow covered the hole above, firing beams into the ground. Raylan raised his rifle. "No more running." He fired at the nearest hunter, hitting its shoulder. The machine stumbled, but another took its place. Beams of red light filled the chamber. Lyra raised both hands. Her crystal flared, sending out waves of blue energy. Vines erupted from the ground, wrapping around the hunter's legs. Trees began to grow in seconds, their roots breaking through the stone. The jungle itself was fighting back. Raylan watched in awe as the roots pulled one hunter into the ground, crushing its body with a sound like metal screaming. Another was torn apart by living branches that moved like snakes. The heart of the jungle pulsed brighter, the ground shaking harder. Lyra cried out in pain. Her energy flowed into the forest on too much, too fast. "I can't hold it." Raylan ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. "Stop, you'll burn yourself out." She shook her head, tears in her glowing eyes. "The jungle needs strength. I give it mine." Suddenly the chamber filled with light. A voice echoed all around them, deep, ancient, and angry. "The destroyers return. But this time the jungle remembers. Roots exploded from the floor, slamming into the last hunter and crushing it into pieces. The red lights faded. The air went still again. Raylan looked around. It's over. But Lyra was on her knees, shaking. Her crystal was dim, her glow fading. Raylan knelt beside her. Hey, stay with me. You did it, she smiled weakly. We did it. But the jungle doesn't trust easily. It still watches you. Raylan frowned. Watches me? I'm not the enemy. Lyra looked into his eyes. Then prove it. When your people come, what will you do? Before he could answer, a sudden beeping came from his wrist communicator. Raylan froze. The small screen lit up in a signal from orbit. Captain Raylan Cross, this is command. We found your beacon. Prepare for extraction. His throat went dry. They had finally found him. Rescue. Home. But then he looked at Lyra. Pale, weak, her glow fading like a dying star. She whispered, If they come, they will take me. They will take the heart. They will burn this world again. Raylan stood in silence, torn between duty and what he had seen. He had been trained to follow orders, but now those orders felt wrong. He turned off the communicator. I'm not leaving you. Lyra's eyes filled with surprise. You choose the jungle? I choose what's right, he said. I've seen what humans do when they find something powerful. I won't let them do it again. The ground rumbled again, but this time it wasn't the hunters. It was the heart of the jungle, alive and listening. The crystal tree pulsed brightly, casting light across the cavern. Lyra touched the trunk, her voice soft. It knows your choice. It will protect you. Raylan blinked as the blue light spread across his hands, wrapping around his skin like living fire. What's it doing? It's marking you, Lyra said. You are part of the jungle now. He felt warmth spread through his chest, not painful but powerful, like the forest itself was breathing inside him. Above them, the sound of engines roared. The human rescue ship was entering the atmosphere. The ground trembled with its arrival. Raylan tightened his grip on his rifle and looked toward the tunnel. They're coming. Then let's make them remember too. Lyra stood beside him, her crystal flaring bright again, a faint smile on her lips. The jungle is ready, she said softly. Outside, thunder rolled across the burning sky. The storm had returned, and this time the jungle was angry. The storm raged above the jungle, turning the sky into a sea of fire and thunder. Lightning flashed across the canopy, revealing the black shadow of a massive ship descending through the clouds. Captain Raylan Cross watched from the mouth of the cavern, his jaw tight. He could see the human rescue vessel, silver, sharp-edged, and armed. His people had come. Beside him, Lyra stood silently, the faint blue light from her crystal reflecting in her sad eyes. They are here, she whispered. Your kind. Raylan said nothing. The communicator on his wrist buzzed again. Captain Cross, this is Commander Holt. We have visual on your position. Sending a retrieval team. Confirm status. He looked at the device, hesitated, then pressed the button. Status, complicated. The reply came sharp and cold. Complicated? Captain, your life signal vanished 3 weeks ago. We expected you dead. Who else is with you? Raylan's eyes flicked toward Lyra. No one dangerous, he said carefully. But you need to listen before you land. There's a blinding light cut through the jungle, scanning their position. The comm crackled. No more talking, Captain. We have orders. Raylan's stomach dropped. He knew that tone. They weren't coming to save him. They were coming to secure something. Lyra stepped closer, her voice trembling. They know I'm here. They feel my energy. He turned to her. Then we'll hide you. She shook her head. They'll find me. The jungle can only protect for a short time. Raylan grabbed her shoulders. Then we fight together. She stared into his eyes, seeing the fear and loyalty there. You would fight your own? He nodded slowly. If my own have lost their soul, yes. Moments later, the rescue ship broke through the trees. Wind from its engines tore through the forest, throwing leaves and dust into the air. 3 soldiers in armored suits jumped down, weapons ready. Raylan stepped forward, his hands raised. Hold fire. It's me, Captain Cross. The lead soldier lifted his visor. Captain, you're alive. Thank God. Then his eyes moved past Raylan to Lyra standing in the blue glow of the cave. His expression changed instantly. What the hell is that? He barked. Alien life form detected. Target locked. Raylan moved in front of her. Stand down. She's not a threat. Orders are clear. the soldier said coldly. Recover human survivor. Eliminate non-human entity. Collect energy sample. Energy sample? Raylan repeated, realizing the truth. They didn't come for him. They came for her. Don't make this hard, Captain, the soldier warned. Move aside. Raylan gripped his rifle. You'll have to go through me. For a moment, no one moved. The rain hissed against the soldier's armor. The jungle watched in silence. Then the soldier sighed. So be it. The first shot rang out, bright and deadly. Raylan rolled aside, firing back. The jungle erupted into chaos. Vines exploded from the ground as if the earth itself was angry. Lyra raised her hand. Her crystal flared, sending out a shockwave of blue light that threw the soldiers backward. Their armor sparked and short-circuited. Raylan ducked behind a rock. Lyra, stop, you'll drain yourself. She ignored him. Her eyes glowed white now. They kill the forest. They must feel its pain. The jungle obeyed her rage. Trees bent. Roots cracked open the earth, and thick vines wrapped around the soldiers, crushing their armor like tin. The commander's voice roared from the ship above. Captain Cross, you're interfering with a classified operation. You've been marked as a hostile. Raylan shouted into the comm. You're killing an innocent being. She saved my life. Stand down or we will fire, the voice said coldly. Raylan's eyes hardened. Then fire. The ship's cannons charged, glowing red. But before they could shoot, the jungle moved. Hundreds of vines shot upward, wrapping around the ship's wings. Lightning struck and the forest screamed like a living thing. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring. The vines glowed with Lyra's light, feeding energy back into the heart of the jungle. Inside the storm of chaos, Raylan pulled Lyra close. You're killing yourself. She smiled weakly, her voice faint. Maybe I'm giving life back. He held her tightly as the jungle roared louder, the storm tearing the sky apart. Then, suddenly, silence. The light faded. The vines dropped. The ship hovered, damaged but still afloat. A new voice came through the comm. Calm, measured, deadly. Captain Cross, you've made a grave mistake. Raylan looked up. A figure stepped out of the ship. Commander Holt, his old mentor. Gray-haired, armored, eyes full of ice. I taught you to survive, Holt said. Not to betray your own species. Raylan lifted his weapon. Maybe you taught me wrong. Holt smiled coldly. You're not saving her, son. You're helping a weapon. That thing's core could power cities for decades. Lyra's hand trembled. They want the light. To use it again. Raylan felt rage boiling in his chest. No, not this time. He fired. The shot hit Holt's shoulder, sending him spinning. But Holt was fast. He fired back, striking Raylan's side. Pain tore through him. Lyra screamed, and her crystal burst into bright blue fire. The jungle lit up again, blinding everyone. When the light faded, Holt and his men were gone, when swallowed by the forest. The ship's engines failed, crashing deeper into the trees. Raylan fell to his knees, gasping. It's over. Lyra caught him as he fell. No, she whispered. The jungle isn't done yet. Something below. Awakens, the ground trembled. The heart of the jungle pulsed again. Louder, faster, alive. Raylan looked up at the sky, his vision fading. Then we finish this. Together, Lyra smiled sadly. Together. The jungle burned in blue fire. Every tree glowed, every leaf trembled. Lightning danced through the sky, and the ground cracked open like the planet itself was alive. The heart of the jungle had awakened, and it was angry. Captain Raylan Cross lay on the wet ground, blood on his side, his vision fading. The air shimmered with strange light. Beside him, Lyra knelt, her hands glowing bright as she tried to heal him. But the crystal on her chest was fading, its light weaker with every second. Don't waste it, Raylan whispered, voice rough. Save your strength. Lyra shook her head, tears mixing with rain. You saved me. The jungle chose you. Now it chooses both of us. A deep rumble shook the earth. From the crack in the ground, giant roots rose, twisting toward the sky. The broken remains of the human ship lay trapped in their coils. Inside, alarms wailed and men screamed as metal was crushed like paper. Raylan struggled to his feet, leaning against a tree. The heart's out of control, he said.
It's killing everyone!
Lyra looked at him with calm, glowing eyes. No, it is remembering. Humans brought death here long ago. The jungle wants to finish what was started, he clenched his fists. Then I'll stop it. Even if I have to stop you. Lyra stared at him for a long time, sadness in her face, but also understanding. You are human, and still you care. That is why the jungle marked you. The ground opened wider. From the fissure, something massive began to rise. A structure made of crystal and roots, pulsing with blue and green light. It looked like a living temple, its heart beating like a drum. Raylan felt its pull inside his chest, the same energy that had marked him before. His veins glowed faintly blue. The heart was calling to him. Lyra touched his face gently. It wants to merge. You and it, one life, one memory. That is how it survives. Raylan's breath caught. Merge, what happens to me? She hesitated. You stop being only human. The air shimmered. From the wreck of the ship, Commander Holt appeared. Bloody but alive, his armor cracked. He aimed his weapon at them. Step away from that thing, Captain. You don't understand what it is. Raylan turned, his face hard. I understand enough. It's life. Not a weapon. Holt spat blood. You're blinded by it. That creature's using you. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing. No human. I gave him choice. Something your kind forgot. Holt shouted. You think you're saving the galaxy? That thing will spread, take every world it touches. Raylan aimed his rifle back at him. Maybe that's what the galaxy needs. Something that remembers mercy. Before Holt could shoot, the ground beneath him split apart. Vines wrapped around his legs and pulled him down. His scream vanished into the earth. Lyra looked away. The jungle ends what it cannot forgive. Raylan stared at the glowing temple. Its light was so bright now that he could barely see. If this thing wakes fully, it'll burn the whole planet. Lyra nodded slowly. Unless it feels peace again. Raylan looked at her. And how do we give it that? She took his hand and placed it over her crystal. Through sacrifice. He felt her heart beating beneath his palm, strong, fast, full of light. No, there has to be another way. There isn't, she whispered. But you can carry me. Carry the light. If the jungle becomes part of you, it will live without pain. Blue light began to rise from her body, wrapping around both of them. The air hummed. Lyra, stop! Raylan shouted, trying to pull back. She smiled softly. You said you'd keep your promises. The light grew blinding. Raylan felt warmth spread through his chest, then silence. Deep, endless silence. When the light faded, Lyra was gone. Only the crystal remained, glowing faintly in Raylan's hand. The storm outside slowed. The jungle stopped shaking. The fire turned to mist. Raylan stood alone, the light of the crystal now inside him. He could feel the forest breathing through him. The trees whispered in his mind. He wasn't just human anymore. Above, the skyship wreck burned quietly, sinking into vines and moss. The jungle began to heal itself. Flowers bloomed where fire had touched. Life returned. Raylan looked at the glowing crystal one last time. Rest now, Lyra. You saved them. A gentle breeze passed through the trees, a voice in the wind. No, Raylan. We saved each other. He smiled faintly, tucking the crystal into his chest pocket. Then he turned toward the distant mountains where sunlight finally broke through the storm. But before he could move, his wrist communicator crackled. A voice came through, cold, distant, mechanical. Captain Cross, do you copy? We detected a new energy surge on your planet. Report immediately. Raylan looked up at the sky. The light in his eyes flickered blue. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. He turned off the communicator and walked into the jungle, disappearing among the glowing trees. As he vanished, the heart of the jungle pulsed once more, gentle this time, like a heartbeat at peace, and high above the clouds, unseen by human eyes, another signal echoed back from space, and the same energy pattern as Lyra's crystal. The universe had heard her scream, and now it had heard her light.